Hey guys, welcome to today's breakdown of The Bad Batch Season 2, Episode 4. Bit of an unorthodox breakdown today as you're seeing my face and not the typical just, clips and screens. So today, nothing much happened in The Bad Batch, but there were two important things that I would like to discuss that did happen. So obviously we got some sort of a race, like a Boon to Eve pod race kind of thing. It reminds me of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and I think it did a great job of that, brought a little nostalgia back into play. However, of course, it wasn't pod racers, so it still stands that Anakin is the only human to ever race a pod that we know of, because this wasn't a pod race. So, the two things that we can take away from this episode, which are very important for future episodes of The Bad Batch, Sid has a very dark past, and she may turn on the Bad Batch at some point in time, either sell them out for monetary gain, for money, or to be in the good graces of the Empire, or perhaps to somebody else. Who maybe a bounty hunter, maybe Boba Fett, right? That could be cool. Or perhaps she has done something to the Jedi, maybe sold out the Jedi during Order 66. She's been part of something that clearly wasn't good. And if that dude is talking about it as if it's a bad thing, and he seems to be a shady guy, then clearly she's done something that she's not proud of, and we could see that look on her face when she was being told. So there's that. The second thing, of course, is what we already knew, but reinstated, is that Tech is extremely intelligent when it comes to learning things and piloting things. As we saw in the first episode of The Bad Batch Season 2, he was giving Omega a lot of homework regarding ships in Star Wars, and for her to learn different ships and how to navigate them, their different blueprints and things like that, the architecture of them, for a very specific reason, which we found out in, I think, Episode 2 it was, where they were actually in a different ship of the Empire and they had to navigate through it. So in this scenario, he had to learn how to pilot this pod, not a pod racer, a pod, and to learn it very quickly in order to win, and of course win Sid back. It was your very typical run-of-the-mill sort of Bad Batch animated episode where they come into a plot, some sort of a danger where they all have to work together really hard. They escape narrowly by the skin of their teeth, and they win or they succeed. And then they all meet up back at the ship or wherever, and they're all good to go. Now, this raises the question, where was Hunter and Echo in this episode? And we don't know. So maybe next episode we'll cover Hunter and Echo and their adventures. Maybe next episode we'll cover Crosshair, or my personal favorite, or what I would want to happen, would be to cover where Cody is. Cody could be in a number of different places. As we know, he has gone rogue from the Empire. He no longer feels like the Empire is a place for him to be. He no longer wants to execute Order 66, perhaps, or perhaps he just doesn't feel like the Empire is really having the same values as he has. And this could be for a number of reasons. Maybe he overrode the chip in his head for Order 66. Maybe the chip perhaps has started to dumb down and isn't as effective as it used to be. Or there's the very other possible answer, which is that mission that they were on in Episode 3 had nothing to do with Jedi. And he saw that, killing a unarmed prisoner who isn't a Jedi really isn't what he's all about. And, clones had a lot of integrity and a lot of pride, and they were taught to be fair and just, I believe. They weren't just, maniacal killers like perhaps Separatist droids, which even they had a bit of a conscience. So I think he was able to see that the Empire is not really all that he thought. It's not really bringing peace to the galaxy, considering that lady had reached out to Palpatine, and he overruled everything when it came to creating peace between the CIS and the Republic. So after he learned about that, I think he decided that maybe we're fighting for the wrong side. What are we really doing for the galaxy? Are we bringing peace or not? And he realized that they're not, so he walked away. He could go and find the Bad Batch because he knows that they aren't supportive of Order 66. They're essentially the opposite of their brother, Crosshair, and he doesn't agree with Crosshair anymore. So he might go find them because he knows they're around. He will probably learn that Rex is alive, and Rex was sort of like a subordinate almost to Cody. Cody was a little higher than him. He taught Rex and sort of took him under his wing. In a lot of different scenarios and cases, he was like a mentor in some cases. So they're both very high up, but I think Cody is a little bit higher. So if he finds out that Rex is still alive, he could go and find Rex. He could go and try and make amends with Obi-Wan. I don't think that'll ever happen, but he might try and find him. If, of course, he becomes successful in finding Obi-Wan, I think that would be a mistake because nobody is supposed to know where Obi-Wan is. The fact that Reva does and that she knows that Anakin has kids is already enough of a slap in the face to what George had wrote, but I digress. That's not part of this video. So Cody can't do that. There can't be another Reva situation. So I believe that he'll try to find Obi-Wan perhaps, or maybe mention him and feel sorry for what he did. Because I think even at this point, even though Order 66 is enacted in all of the clones, I do think some of the brighter clones, the smarter clones, are able to question it and be like, first of all, why are so many clones questioning Order 66? And second of all, did we really do the right thing against our Jedi generals? Are they really traitors? And this perhaps may be something that is going through Cody's mind at this point in time. And I really am down to see all of that and what happens to his story going forwards. Now, the other opportunity is for him to meet a Jedi. And the Jedi, of course, are very weary of clones, no duh, because of Order 66. And he might try to find intel on perhaps what happened to Obi-Wan or anybody else. He might even try to go back to the Jedi Temple, which I think would be one of the most interesting storylines that we could take for Cody. So, if he goes back to the Jedi Temple, as you all know, or some of you know, Palpatine has turned it into his headquarters, into his HQ. So it is no longer the Jedi Temple anymore. It's been cleaned up and it's turned into the Imperial HQ, to Palpatine's headquarters. And it's not the same anymore. So when Cody goes there, he might realize what really happened and maybe look at some archives, maybe look at some footage, hologram footage. Could be cool, could be fun. Or he might bump into Ahsoka if he goes with Rex. The sky's really the limit for where Cody could go at this point. I don't think he'll survive in the end. I mean, obviously in the end he won't survive. But I think his path is totally different at this point, and he might sacrifice himself at the very end of this season if they don't want to keep him around. Now, in Legends, Cody actually ended up riding out his life as a stormtrooper, an elite stormtrooper who was training all of the recruits who had come in, and he had seen all the new enlistees of the Empire as stormtroopers. So Cody, his story in Legends is quite different than what it is now, unless he goes back to the Empire. So it's interesting how they've kind of changed that around. Now, going forward, even beyond that, I think what's going to happen with the Bad Batch is some bigger threat will come in. The Empire will probably try to kill them. Crosshair, who doesn't have his chip anymore, got blown out of his head, and it doesn't work, will eventually realize that he needs to be with his brothers and he needs to save his brothers. And he'll probably sacrifice himself to do that. Or one of his brothers will sacrifice themselves to save him, and he will join the Bad Batch, and we'll get the next season with whoever it might be. I'm thinking they could maybe get rid of Echo, because they're not really giving him much screen time. They're not really giving him all that much dialogue or anything like that. And I feel like he is maybe the first one to go, unfortunately. So I could see something like that happening. And it would maybe make Crosshair be very loyal, because him going back with the crew would be pretty fun. Finding out what is on Mount Tantiss would also be really fun, as we saw at the end of Season 1 of The Bad Batch. Mount Tantiss is a place in Legends where Palpatine did a lot of his experiments and cloning. And this could be a place where he's trying to clone Jedi, trying to clone, who knows, maybe even Grogu, where he's trying to clone Snoke, if they want to tie it into the sequels, which of course they will, unfortunately. But there's a lot of different things that they could be doing on Mount Tantiss that could be really fun and creepy and interesting. And of course, the last thing of my prediction for future episodes is the incorporation of Boba Fett. I think Boba Fett will definitely make an appearance somehow, either hired by the Empire to find the Bad Batch and comes across Omega and he's like, oh, you're my sister. And there might be some, tension there, some family tension, or he ends up coming across them with Fennec Shand and they all work together, which could be fun too. And maybe he talks about the Clone Wars a bit, talks about Mace Windu and how he wants to avenge his father's death. That's pretty much it. I don't think I'm leaving too much out for this episode. Very basic episode. I know a lot of younger kids will enjoy this episode. I know I would have if I was a kid. It wasn't horrible, but it definitely wasn't an episode where, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. It was much more what you would call a filler episode, despite what Dave Filoni says about there's no such thing as filler. But I think, the idea of Sid being a backstabber or having a dark past and Tech being very intelligent is something that could have been explained easily, in 30 seconds or so, just like it was pretty much at the end of this episode. So anyways, fun episode for kids and for younger people and maybe even for anybody else. But overall, for me, this episode was probably a 5 out of 10, 4 out of 10. But we did get two important, interesting information bits out of there, and I just wanted to relay those in this breakdown. Hope you guys have a great rest of your evening. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it on your way out, and I will see you in the next live stream and the next video, and of course, the next watch party, which is next week. I love you all. Have a great day, and may the Force be with you.